Yeah. Oh, great. Oh, welcome. Feel free to come in and grab a seat. All right. Calling to order the City Council meeting of the City of San Carlos for November 12th, 2024. We're all here tonight, so there are no teleconference requests. And if you'll all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Glad everyone can join us tonight. This brings us to item 4, changes to the order of the agenda. Niall, do we have anything from staff this evening?
There are no changes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anything from my colleagues? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, presentations. And this will be a good one. Recognizing Mr. Marty D. and students Elena Robinson, Calvin Massey, Nielsen Chen, and Talia Simon from the Tierra Linda Middle School debate team upon winning the World Schools Debating Championship. If Mr. D and the students could join me up front, that'd be great. Oh, glad you guys could join us this evening. And, you know, we'll just stand up here. It makes for a little bit better photo op if you want to stand next to me and look out. But appreciate you guys coming out, and I look forward to celebrating your accomplishments. You know, we've done several proclamations this year for sporting championships among some of our teams. But of course, we're a community that takes scholarship and academic excellence very seriously, so we're very happy to recognize your world championship. So I have a proclamation to read, and one of the proclamations for each of you, and a city coin for Mr. D. So proclamations, I think they're important. They're basically the city formally recognizing something, and since they are important, I read the whole thing. So here we go. Whereas Tierra Linda Middle School is part of the San Carlos School District and serves over 400 students in grades 6 through 8 with the mission to provide an innovative and engaging learning experience that nurtures the whole child, empowering every student to thrive and succeed in an ever-changing world. And whereas in 2022, middle school teacher Marty D. founded the Tierra Linda Speech and Debate Program with the intent of spreading awareness and knowledge of debate and teaching skills that will help students succeed in middle school and beyond, while also having fun. And whereas Mr. D continues to teach debate at Tierra Linda Middle School, which instills skills such as critical reasoning, strong questioning, argument rebuttal, and effective communication and speech presentation. Mr. D also coaches the after-school debate team, which competes in various speech and debate tournaments at the local, state, and national levels. And whereas Tierra Linda graduates, Elena Robinson, Calvin Massey, Nielsen Chen, and Talia Simon competed in the California Middle School State Tournament in May and traveled to Des Moines, Iowa in June to compete in the World Schools Debate at National Speech and Debate Association National Tournament. And whereas these 4 students competing as our very own Tierra Linda speech and debate team were named California Co-State Champions of Parliamentary Debate in May and won the United States National Championship in the World School Debate in June, bringing great honor and credit upon Tierra Linda Middle School and the city of San Carlos. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, John Dugan, Mayor of the City of San Carlos, on behalf of our City Council and community, do hereby congratulate Elena Robinson, Calvin Massey, Nilson Chen, and Talia Simon upon being named California Co-State Champions and winning the United States National Championship in the World School Debate, while representing our very own Tierra Linda Middle School, presented this 12th day of November, 2024. Very proud of each of you, and I appreciate the program you've put together, Mr. D. I will hand out the proclamations to each. It's kind of a good photo op, and then if you'd like to say a word or two, feel free, Mr. D. Or any of our debaters. Very good. Yeah. Great. Thank you. You're welcome. Maybe rotate. Thank you. All right. Yep, congratulations. I'm sorry, that's yours to keep. You get a city coin in deepest appreciation for your service to the community, Mr. D. Thank you. You're welcome. Very good. Mr. D? Good. All right. Congratulations. You're welcome. All right. Congratulations. All right. Very good. Oh, sure.
You mind if I join you?
Okay. 1, 2. Got it. Thank you.
Very good. And Mr. D, if anyone would like to say a few words, this would be the spot into the podium.
Thank you so much for recognizing us. I really love this city. I think one of the reasons is because the city values education and educators, and that's what motivates me every day. You know, to make the city proud and to give back to the community that's given me a lot. So thank you very much for that. I also want to thank the San Carlos School District. Hans does a lot of work behind the scenes to help our program, and I sincerely appreciate that. Without him, this wouldn't have been possible. Our superintendent, Dr. Frentress, our principal, Ms. Galati, our assistant principal, Ms. Lee. Without them, you know, this wouldn't be possible. And they are kind of the unsung heroes of the program. I also have 3 assistant coaches. Well, I have 2 assistant coaches who worked for me last year, Colin Turk, Gianna Colby, who definitely deserve a lot of credit for helping these students prepare for the tournament and beyond. And I just really want to thank all the staff at Tierra Linda for believing in me and for supporting our team. Thank you.
All right. Terrific. Thank you, Mr. D.
Hi. Thank you very much. I want to say thank you so much for the recognition. It means a lot to us, and this was definitely a very enriching experience. There's a lot of ups and downs, and it was stressful at times, but we learned a lot. And Nationals was such a great experience for us, and just doing speech and debate with Mr. Day for the last couple years was such an amazing experience, and now we're continuing this on through high school. So thank you, and thank you.
Wonderful.
I just want to take a little opportunity to say how grateful I am to be here today, how grateful I was to be in the presence of Mr. Day for the last 2 years, having that man coach me and make me a better person for the last 2 years of my life. I'm very grateful for my teammates here, Talia, Lena, and Nelson. You guys have, again, been great friends to me for the last couple of years, gave me a home that I sometimes don't have in other places. I also want to say thank you to you. I'm also very grateful for the San Carlos School District giving us that opportunity to represent, give us the opportunity that I know a lot of people in other places might not have, and I'm very grateful for those things. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Adding on to what Calvin said, I would say that speech and debate has definitely just been more than a extracurricular activity to me. It's been like a second home, and I have made relationships that I would never have had if I didn't join speech and debate, such as Talia, one of my best friends. I would have never had gotten so close to her if I didn't do speech and debate. And I just wanted to say, like, speech and debate is a very rewarding experience because it taught me valuable communication skills that I wouldn't have learned anywhere else. And it helped me to find my inner voice rather than just hiding away from public speaking and being scared to share my voice. Now I've been given a platform to express my opinions and learn that my voice does truly matter. And that experience is unforgettable.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And to close out, we are very thankful for everyone on the board, everyone on the council, all the parents, and especially my teammates for helping make this possible. It has been a wonderful experience to go out and debate, to meet new people, and to be able to learn new skills. And once again, it's been my honor to represent the city of San Carlos at the national tournament, and we are so happy that we have been provided this opportunity to represent our wonderful city. Thank you.
Well, we're very proud of you, and that was all very well spoken. So good job, Mr. Day. Very good. Yep. All right. Moving on to council communications, and I'm sorry, Councilmember Collins. Did you have something to say on this matter?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say to the students, congratulations, and you make me proud to be a graduate of Tierra Linda. And I wish they had had this kind of program when I was there. I might have won more arguments with my parents.
Very good. Thank you, Ron. And you folks are welcome to stay, or you're welcome to go get some homework done. I'm sure it's all quite pressing. So, but yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Yep. All right, moving on to item 6, council communications and announcements. Do any of my colleagues have anything they would like to discuss this evening? Councilmember Rack.
Thank you, Mayor Dugan. I just want to say we had the Fire Station 16 ribbon cutting. I appreciate all the great work that happened with that, and I feel like we didn't give enough recognition to Stephen Machida and his team and the Public Works team, because they really were there hand and foot with everybody and working hand in hand. And obviously all the other members of the city staff and the fire department and all their contractors. It really was a really wonderful opportunity to see something come together for that, and a great addition to the city, and I'm proud that we have this new fire station.
Thank you, Adam. Vice Mayor McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo Councilmember Rack's comments. Great job all around to our staff and everyone involved. I wanted to just note for the public that right now on the city's social media pages, especially on Facebook, there's a post that I just wanted to make sure that the community is aware of. The San Mateo County Transportation Authority is asking for our input as San Carlins of where we would like to see improvements improvements along within 1 mile of Highway 101, specifically bike and pedestrian improvements that would be beneficial to our community. So you can check that out on the city's web pages, where you can mark on a map priority areas that are important to you, where potential improvements could be made. You can also find it online at smcta.com/mid-county multimodal. But again, it's on the city's social media pages, and I would encourage everyone to check it out and make your voice heard. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Sarah. I think that's a terrific thing to emphasize. And Niall, I hope Brian and our communications team is leaning into our socials on that one, because it is a bit of a crowdsourcing, and the more San Carlins talking about our interchange at 101, the better.
Yes, we're definitely on it.
Terrific. Thank you, Niall. All right. Councilmember Venkatesh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I want to address a matter that was brought to my attention several months ago. During my 2022 campaign, I unintentionally failed to report 3 expenditures to the Political Practices Commission, Fair Political Practices Commission, sorry. Those expenditures were a payment for an art and wine booth, a payment for a text communication, and a payment to my campaign consultant. These payments were made after my campaign account was closed and will be shown as contributions made by myself and my campaign. Those errors were unintentional and simply a result of inexperience and more than expected demand of running a campaign, operating a business, and having demands of a family. I failed to relay these expenditures properly to my volunteer treasurer, and I am responsible for those mistakes. My campaign also erroneously listed a text message sent to voters as a non-monetary contribution from Councilmember Collins. Ron graciously allowed my campaign to use his name in the text as one of my endorsers. The expense for the text was from my campaign and not Ron. Again, a simple error. We have since cleared up that issue as well and correctly reported it as such. I want to be clear that Councilmember Collins in no way paid for that text. He very graciously allowed us to use his name, and that is all he did. I want to apologize to Councilmember Collins for this mistake. I greatly appreciate his support during my campaign and did not want to in any way damage his good standing in this community. It was my first campaign, and I made some errors. If I run for re-election, it is my intent to employ a professional treasurer to avoid any such errors in the future. I hope to have this issue cleared up before the end of this year. I apologize for my oversight, and I will make sure it does not happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranita. I appreciate the additional clarifications there. I will just briefly note, a member of the public did ask us to look into that matter as a potential code of conduct violation on our city council. As mayor, I have the initial duty of looking into that further. Since this is under continued investigation by FPPC, I understand a report will be issued. That organization is the relevant fact finder here, and I will wait for the issuance of their report before I make any additional determination on the matter. So with that, Councilmember Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Pranita, for your efforts in resolving the recent reporting issue. As you know, errors can sometimes occur in the course of running a campaign, but the FPPC has a clear process for addressing such matters. You've now fully complied with those requirements, and I commend your willingness to publicly acknowledge the mistake, which is something you were under no obligation to do. With that behind us, I believe we can now move forward and continue our work on behalf of the community. Regarding the allegations made against me concerning violations of our Code of Conduct and Ethics, I want to be absolutely clear. In my 13 years of service on this council, I have always conducted myself with the highest standards of integrity, and I have never engaged in unethical, illegal, or improper actions. It is both confusing and hurtful to me that Mr. Durkin has made baseless accusations implying otherwise. I know John personally, and I'm disappointed that he chose to escalate these matters to the entire City Council, rather than addressing them directly to me. A simple phone call to me, or to Pranita, could have clarified any misunderstandings before this situation spiraled into an unnecessary council issue. As a Parks, Recreation, and Culture Commissioner appointed by the council, John is also a city official and is held to the same standards of conduct that I am. In fact, I find it ironic that the false and derogatory assertions he is making about two city officials in his repeated emails to the mayor and the rest of the council are themselves constituting a violation of our code of conduct, as I now consider them harassment by proxy. In case there is a question as to what our code actually says, let me quote. It is unacceptable for city officials to make derogatory comments about other city officials, their opinions and actions. Neither Councilmember Venkatesh nor I has violated any part of our code of conduct. And these attacks on our character need to stop, and stop now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ron, for that further clarification. And as a potential code of conduct violation was raised against Ron, once again, I am the initial investigative body on any potential allegation. I did look into that matter, which was the simple matter of Ron using his name and title in a text that was sent out by Councilmember Venkatesh's campaign. And in consultation with our city council, there is no violation of our code of conduct with that action, and no further action will be pursued in that matter. Very good. With no additional council communications, we will move on to item 7, public comment. Public comment is persons wishing to speak on items not on tonight's agenda. If you would like to speak on a matter not on tonight's agenda and you're in the room, I would invite you to fill out a comment card in the corner and turn it into our city clerk. If you're at home on Zoom, now would be the time to raise your hand, and we will give you a few moments here to raise your hand if you would like to public comment via Zoom this evening. Crystal, do we have any speaker cards or any hands raised?
We have 2 speaker cards for in-person, and there are no hands on Zoom at the moment.
Terrific. Then let's recognize our first speaker in person, and at the end of this initial public comment, we will take no further hand raises on Zoom.
Okay. First up is Adam Tan. Thank you.
Welcome, Adam.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Dugan, and to the entire council. I'm Adam Taub. I'm a proud San Carlos resident for 8 years. I love our small town, coaching Little League, seeing you all at the farmers market, hometown days, and around town. San Carlos embodies the ethos of the city of good living. I'd also like to personally thank both Mayor Dugan and Vice Mayor McDowell for being adamant in keeping San Carlos focused on local issues. Over the past year, outside groups have attempted to litigate global politics through the billboards in our town. Now, I'm an ardent defender of free speech, but seeing divisive political messages paid for by outside groups has been unpleasant for me, my friends, my community, and my children. I don't want to engage in the content of these messages here today in this forum, as I believe we should keep San Carlos politics local, as I just said. Based on the preliminary views of lawyers I've consulted with, there is case law that supports local governments passing laws as to the type of advertising allowed on its public-facing billboards. Just as Caltrans can restrict billboard permits to on-site advertising only, so too can cities limit advertising to commercial endeavors or on-site endeavors only. I request that the board enlist the city attorney to investigate the legality and cost of implementation to restricting billboards advertising to businesses and avoiding divisive political messaging, unless, of course, a billboard is attached to an on-site nonprofit or political entity. I ask that you seriously consider my request so as to keep San Carlos the city of good living and focused on our local issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And I will just briefly say that the billboard in question is privately owned. And in consultation with our city attorney, it is my understanding our potential for regulating any speech on a privately owned billboard is minimal at best. And Greg, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, this came up once before when a different message was put on a billboard, and my answer is the same today. We cannot regulate content on private billboards, and it's a free speech First Amendment issue. And if we attempted to regulate content on billboards, the courts have made it very clear that any kind of regulatory scheme that we might employ would be subject to strict scrutiny, which is the highest level of scrutiny by the courts over content-based regulations. And we would also have to make very difficult findings on these to find that there was a compelling interest to regulate that speech. In my opinion, is that we could not meet those standards in billboards, and there's plenty of case law that covers this issue. So it's just, you know, like I said before, I think it's a difficult issue, and sometimes messages can be hurtful, but this is, you know, a First Amendment issue, and we really just we're not in a position to regulate the content. I did hear the issue of, there's a whole other body of law about the Outdoor Advertising Act, and if you wanted to get rid of billboards, it's a very long and detailed process of amortizing the value of the billboards and paying to amortize their value over time and to get them removed, and that's really just not feasible because the value of these billboards is very high. The advertising revenue is used to calculate that value.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Do we have any additional public comment?
Yes, we have one more in person, and there are no hands on Zoom.
Okay.
Simona Sives? Civis, thank you.
Hi,
Welcome,
everyone.
Simona.
Thank you. I actually sent you an email in advance. So I'm just going to respond directly to the city attorney because actually it's not a First Amendment issue. We can definitely hide behind free speech. It's the easiest thing to do because then you don't have to do anything. But actually there are cases that are precedents that you can cite and say that we will not allow billboards that are not commercial, for not commercial use. That's it. It's actually that simple. So, and there are precedents for that. So I've also been a longtime resident of San Carlos. My husband grew up here. My kids went to school here. And I love the fact this city is a city of good living. This is what it's all about. The kids that we saw here, that's what the city is all about. Brought tears to my eyes. Like, it was beautiful to see. What we have going on here is international conflict being brought to our town on our billboards while kids are driving by seeing messages that are absolutely, honestly, lies, pure lies. We've changed the message. Right now it's actually we community, Jewish community, put a message to fight that, but that's not sustainable. Fighting billboards, that's not what we want. The only ones that are benefiting from it is actually that private company that you mentioned. It is owned by a private company, you're right. And they're the only ones that benefit, not the people that are driving by 101 or the people of San Carlos. I know you can do more. It's not free speech. I respect free speech. This is what it's all about. This is what our country is about. But you absolutely, there's precedents that you can cite to fight this and just say it's only for commercial use, and that's it. And then we solve the problem for all sides and make it fair. That's all I ask, for you to go beyond the free speech and look into it, please.
Thank you, Simona. I appreciate your concern on this tough issue. Crystal, is there any more requests for public comment?
No, I do not have any other more requests.
Okay. Moving on to the consent calendar, we have items A through H. Would anyone like to pull any of these items from consent for further discussion? Not seeing that, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve consent items A through H.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Rack?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McDowell?
Yes.
And Mayor Dugan?
Yes. Very good. Our consent items are approved. Moving on to new business. Item 9A, consideration of adopting a resolution establishing official city flags. And I'll just say I appreciate Councilmember Collins bringing this matter before us this evening, getting it on our agenda. And I know this is one of his final potential items that he may bring forward as a council member in San Carlos. So I will go into this one saying I'm going to vote and support whatever Ron votes and supports for on this one.
I'll just say I consulted the highest authority available, which was my wife, and she does have preferences, so.
Very good, very good. Do we have a presentation this evening now?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you, members of the City Council. I have the privilege of introducing this resolution for your consideration. Based on the direction from the council, we looked at the available flags that the council might want to consider as being official city flags. And we came up with actually 8 flags, but there's really 4 designs with different backgrounds is how it's set up. So the first one is the city is a flag with a white background with the city seal in the center, the traditional city seal like the one behind the dais. And then there's a green background flag as well. Then we have the new Centennial City Seal that the council already approved, also in the white or the green background. Then we have a flag with the Centennial logo, and then we have the City of Good Living branded flag. And each one has a different purpose and use and appropriateness for display. Oops, sorry. Our research indicates that the council has not designated an official city flag in the past. We have used a flag with a city seal, but with a white background, which is flown at times from City Hall, but without any formal designation. The adoption of the resolution would approve the 8 flag designs for display at city facilities, at events, and for other uses. And this slide has the 8 flags that we're proposing for you to review and approve tonight. I'll leave that up for a while for the members of the public to look at it and for you to glance at them. And then the last slide is questions for the council. I'll put the flags back up again.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Greg, for the presentation. And is this a project that the attorney's office pursued on behalf of the city?
You know, at the staff meeting where we discussed it, I volunteered to handle this one.
Very good. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So, and just to clarify, so we have 8 flags. Are we choosing between A and B, or are we, of each of these, or are we going to make use of all 8 of these somehow? Is that the recommendation?
The resolution is set up to accept all 8 as official city flags and give discretion to the city manager to display them at appropriate times during our centennial or at future dates, because sometimes, you know, the centennial flag can be used in the future if we want to display that along with the regular city flag. I wanted to provide the council with maximum flexibility on the use of these. Since you're doing it by resolution, this can be changed at any time by a future council if it becomes not necessary to have this many official flags, but that's the way it's set up. You could reduce the flags and say, hey, we only want to use the A as our official flag and not use the other ones. But I thought with the centennial coming up, you'd want to have the ability to use the others. And then since we do have the City of Good Living logo, I thought that those would be appropriate for possibly other uses, that just so we would include that in the reso for you.
Okay, very good. And I'll just chime in and just say I know having a dark background and a light background is useful in different contexts. So that's, I appreciate keeping the options potentially. But Councilmember Rack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Greg, and for all the work on this. I mean, I'm assuming you didn't do all the graphic designs, so whoever did the graphic designs, I mean, I know you have many skills, Greg, but that was not it, so.
I should have given credit to Amy and the Parks and Rec Department on helping with that.
I guess I had two questions. I think these are all great options, and I really appreciate all the work in this. One is, how do we determine sort of what's public use for this, sort of non-city official use? So if someone wanted to fly it at their house or something, I mean, could they use this? Is there any kind of restrictions on that? How would that work?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought of, excuse me, private use, but I think that these are flags that we could sell the flag and make them available to the public.
Okay. So they'd have to be, it's something that we would have to be able to sell. You couldn't just, I mean, I guess you could, I don't know. I'm just wondering, like, could you license it on Amazon and someone could buy it on Amazon through the city or something like that? I'm just trying to understand how that might work.
Well, how we would do that is we can claim a trademark on them once we put them into commerce under the law. So if we're selling them, we can claim a trademark, and then it would be it's our property to be able to sell. It's with public flags and seals. It's a little. You can't copyright it. It's kind of, there's a different rule for that. But we could trademark it for purposes of selling it, and
right.
And
okay.
We would. There is a kind of an enforceability issue that if people have the flags and they want to fly a San Carlos flag, it's probably appropriate in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and by I don't mean to. I wouldn't want to prohibit that use. I think, like, doesn't the American Legion, don't they have a flagpole there? Like, if they wanted to fly the flag underneath the American flag there, I mean, we would want to be able to get them to have access to it to do things like that. I mean, which is not technically public, but
I think a lot of cities do that. Like, just anecdotally, last time I was at a 49er game, I think the San Francisco flag is flying at Levi's Stadium, which is nowhere near San Francisco. So it is, people do fly their city's flag because they're proud of it and they want to display their way.
My second sort of follow-up is, can you, and Amy may have an example versus either way, is for the City of Good Living, what kind of use case would you see for that versus sort of one with more the kind of official adopted city seal? Sorry, I didn't mean to ask like a bunch of, these are all great options, and I'm just more curious out of that.
Thank you. Good evening, Amy Newby, Parks and Recreation Director, for all you out there. So I guess I would think that if there was people out in the community that wanted to show their San Carlos pride, they would maybe have the City of Good Living flag at their house. As opposed to the city seal, I guess I see that as more formal and more for city official use. But I liked your idea about the American Legion, if that was an organization and a facility that wanted to fly that flag. But also at different meetings, if, in our library community rooms, or do we have it in our facilities where we have the other flags? There's some ideas. In terms of
hometown days or parades or things, there would be, if the theme of the event was to talk about City of Good Living, that's kind of why we thought we would include that in one of the flags. So.
And the idea to offer them to the community, if you read your emails on Friday and got the launch of the City Centennial website, we are launching a merchandise shop, an online merchandise shop, which we are creating some merchandise then for the public to purchase. And this could be, this most likely could also be included on that site.
Great, thank you. No further questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. And yeah, I was very happy to see that about the merchandise. I've been asked by a surprisingly large number of people how they can buy San Carlos swag, so we must be doing something right. Very good. Vice Mayor McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to ask Amy actually about the Centennial Store, so I think that's a great idea to offer the flags there. I thought maybe the museum would like to sell them. That might be a good fit. And I was going to suggest that retiring council members should be given one too. So.
Of their choice.
Yeah. Sure. Those were my only comments, so they're all great designs. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Councilmember Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do like them all. I'm considering buying a flagpole so I can put them up depending on my mood. But to answer Sarah's question, the museum has offered to sell the flags, so that would be a great idea. I love the idea of an online store. It's something that I think we should look at all options and look at all opportunities. So, as far as which ones to pick, I guess we don't really have to decide, since we can let the staff decide what they want to use and when they want to use it. So that's all I have.
Ron, I guess maybe I'd ask you a question. I agree, these are all great designs, and we can approve the use of all of them, but do we maybe want to pick one as the official flag?
Well, if I had to pick one, I like the Centennial flag. The discussion as to whether or not it's a white or a green background is something that we may have to decide or not. But because you yourself said, it depends on where they put them. It might be appropriate, more appropriate. I like the Centennial aspect of it, even if it's dozens of years later. I think it still makes a point. It still has value. It shows that the city's been around a minimum of 25 or of 100 years. So.
And do you mean the 100-year seal flag or the Centennial flag?
The upper right.
The 100-year seal flag, yes.
I like it's a real clean design, and not that I object to the others, depending on where they're used. But as far as if you're asking me what would we fly over City Hall, I'd pick the 100-year seal. And also have the option of flying the seal only in future years, depending on, future councils may make different decisions. So I think we should give them, the flexibility to, if they so choose, to make those choices.
Very good. Thank you, Ron. Councilmember Venkatesh, I thought I saw your light on, but
I'm good, thank you.
You're good? All right. I'll just pose the question then broadly. Do we want to consider any of these as potentially our official flag? And maybe it could have a green and white variant. Or we could just approve all of them and figure it out over time. I'm open either way. Any? I don't know. I'm not proposing anything new, so we can approve all of them.
I think we should approve all of them to start, and then I prefer, if we're going to do something official, we look at the top set, the seal only or the 100-year seal. Is my if we're going to have something we want to fly over City Hall as the official flag, but I'm happy to go with Ron's suggestion on the 100-year seal as well.
I see some nods, and Ron has my vote, so I guess the 100-year seal is our official flag, and all of these are approved for use, is what I think the resolution we want to make is. All right. Would you like to make that, Ron?
I will do that. I move to adopt Resolution 2024-120, a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Carlos establishing official city flags.
Oh, second. Do you want to, Ron, do you want to designate that? Do you need to designate the one with the 100-year seal?
Oh, with a special designation of the 100-year seal flag.
As the official.
As the official flag.
Got it. All right.
I still second.
All right. As amended, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor McDowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Rack?
Yes.
And Mayor Dugan.
Yes. Very good. We have an official flag and many great options here. Thank you, Greg and team and staff and team and Ron for bringing this item before us.
Just one last comment. I want to thank Greg and staff for putting all this together. I think it's going to be a great thing for us. So thank you all.
Terrific, and I fully support Mr. Collins getting a full set of city flags. Yes. All right, moving on to item 9B, considering a resolution to fully fund the San Carlos School District Crossing Guard program for next year. Welcome, Stephen, if you have a presentation for us.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, Stephen Machida, Public Works Director. So the item before you is we're really discussing kind of the crossing guard. So just a really quick, excuse me, a background. So the council is aware the city has contributed to the cost of the crossing guards for several years, but since 2015. But in June 2021, due to the COVID pandemic, the school district had some concerns about a shortfall about providing this service. So they had requested the city council to fully fund the program. So the program really consists of these 11 intersections. I won't read them all, but these are kind of the locations throughout the school, and these are the locations that the school district had made the determination of where they wanted to site the school district, or excuse me, the crossing guards. So the discussion is basically the city agreed to fund the program. This is starting in 2021-22, $234,000. And then just shy of $245,000 in fiscal year 22-23, and just shy of $283,000 in 23-24. So the current year, fiscal 24-25, the school district actually had received a quote and submitted to the city in the amount of $296,917.65 for this crossing guard from its crossing guard contractor, All City Management Services. So that's for this fiscal year. As with all the cases, the school district will continue to actually manage and oversee the program's operation, while the city will fully fund the cost of the program. And this program actually supports the school district's effort to safeguard, the students while they walk to school, and it's consistent with the city's interest in collaborating with the school district on safe routes to school. So the recommendation is to adopt the resolution agreeing to fully fund the San Carlos School District Crossing Guard program for a total cost of $296,917.65 for fiscal year 24-25. And with that, that concludes the presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Stephen. That was a good overview of a good program. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments? Vice Mayor McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Stephen, and to your team for working on this program. I'm a big fan of the Crossing Guard program, and I know that it aligns well with our Safe Routes to School and our values as a council. I have 3 questions. Number 1, how are locations for crossing guards decided? How is that number put together? Is that something that's exclusively within the school district? Is there some collaboration there? How does that work?
In the past, it was really decided by the school district, and they made that determination based on kind of the number of students as well as kind of the local need for the. So in particular, they do try to kind of identify those sites that have a fairly large amount of activity, and where the crossing guards would certainly help the situation.
Okay, so that is school district driven. Do you know how the school district bids out this program and how often they accept bids for the crossing guards?
That I do not know. I know they have been using the same crossing guard company for several years now.
Okay. And then just as a city, have we ever talked about capping the city's contribution for this program? I know that, it used to be split 50-50 between the school district and the city, and then with the pandemic, and as you mentioned, the school district had a funding crisis, we stepped up in a gesture of goodwill to take over 100% of the funding. But has the school district talked at all about, making contributions again, or?
They have not discussed it with staff. Certainly that is a possibility, but basically, typically what we receive is kind of the quote each year, approximately during budget season when we start to kind of put together our portions of the budget. So, but I have not had that discussion about capping, the amount that the city would actually pay towards the program.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's it for my questions, and then I have comments.
Thank you, Sarah. Councilmember Venkatesh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Stephen, for that. I also enjoy the crossing guards every morning when I drop off my kids, but I also know the Board of Supervisors contributes to the program. Do you know how much they contribute? It was mentioned during our back-to-school night.
That I do not know. I don't believe that information has really been shared with us.
All right. Thank you, Pranita. Councilmember Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Stephen. I was going to ask you about the intersection of Club Drive and Bayview, and I was thinking back too many decades in the past when Bayview didn't go all the way through, but it goes all the way through from Beverly all the way to Club Drive, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, all right. And the other thing is, from time to time, we hear complaints in particular about where Club Drive and Dartmouth come into San Carlos Avenue. Is there any extra attention paid to that intersection in particular? Is there an extra crossing guard, or is it because they're a light we don't need one?
I have spoken to the district on that, and they have looked at opportunities where they could perhaps maybe shift some of the crossing guards elsewhere from one location to another. I know the city wanted to work real closely as far as, to perhaps limit some on-street parking there just to provide a little bit better sight distance and to kind of remove some of the obstructions. So we're looking at various options to do that. But as far as adding I know there is some reluctance to kind of move some of the crossing guards because I think generally the children have gotten used to having, or children and parents have gotten used to the crossing guards at these 11 locations, and shifting one to another location kind of makes it a little problematic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Councilmember Rack.
Thank you, Mayor Dugan. I just wanted to echo, I think Vice Mayor McDowell had some good questions. I think that I don't necessarily have a question, but would suggest that since the Vice Mayor and I are on the 2+2 committee, that perhaps this would be a good topic to have a presentation on at that point, because then we can have that discussion with the school district and the school board members themselves on some of those questions about capping costs, the process they go about to contract out, whether they do any bidding on this or what their processes are. I think those are good things we should have, and I would suggest we add that to the 2+2 agenda, if you're amenable to it. Sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. I just have a couple quick questions. So is this, the expense that they're asking us to reimburse, is that just labor, or they have administrative expenses or uniform expenses? Are there other expenses in that number?
I believe it is just labor.
Just labor. And do they hire them, or is this they've contracted with a firm that hires the crossing guards?
This is a company that provides the service, so they contract with the company.
Got it. And the so the 26% increase over the past 3 years, as far as was it communicated to us what that increase entailed? Is that, I guess, just labor, expensive labor?
Yes, that was significantly. I think there was a period of time when, the cost for service was a little bit shy, and so they needed to upgrade or pay the crossing guards a little bit more, as far as also dealing with some additional inflation costs and that type of thing. So, yeah, it was fairly significant during that time.
Okay, very good. And if they would, what is our actual understanding right now? I know they came forward and asked us to pick up 100% of the expense, but is that understood to be a certain number of crossing guards? I see the locations. If they wanted to expand that contract, would they have to ask our approval for it, or would they just send us a bigger bill next year?
Yeah, basically one of the things that we want to make sure is, how many intersections are actually being covered. So if they are interested in increasing this from the 11 locations, we would certainly want to know, and probably want to have that discussion probably earlier than just receiving the quote and saying this is what it is for an additional 2 to 3 intersections they want to add.
Got it. So they're essentially managing this contract and relationship and then just sending us the bill. We haven't been involved in the actual contract each year?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's potentially troublesome over time. Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay, very good. I will pause now for public comment. If you're at home, now would be the time to log in and raise your hand via Zoom. Do we have any public comment in the room? Crystal?
No slips in the room, and we actually don't have anyone joining us through Zoom right now.
Okay. Well, I guess we don't have to pause then, so very good. Moving past public comment, Councilmember Venkatesh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there feedback from the school district regarding this program? Or a statement or anything?
Yeah.
Stephen's looking at me. Feedback from the school district on this?
On the proposal?
On the proposal. No, I did have a conversation with someone from the school district, and they had expressed that they hope that the council continues to see the value in the program and is willing to fund it today.
All right. Thank you, Pernita. Vice Mayor McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think there were some good questions asked tonight. To start off with, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Crossing Guard program. My kids have used it. I know that it not only helps our children get to school safely, but it also helps kind of with the morning flow of commute traffic, because ideally the Crossing Guard is holding kids at the corner, letting some cars go, then letting kids cross. And I do see value in having professionals out there, because some of our intersections are very tricky. My kids went to Britton Acres back when there were volunteer crossing guards, and I think that got hard to manage because someone volunteering is different than someone showing up and it's their job. So I definitely see a lot of value. I'm very proud that the city stepped up during the pandemic to cover 100% of the contract. I think that was a big help to the school district, and I'm very grateful and proud that we could do that. At the same time, though, our community is asking for us as a city to do more and more. We're hearing a lot of pressure to get our downtown going. We're trying to build a new park at North Crestview. We're paving a lot of streets and building new sidewalks. So I guess I've talked to colleagues in other cities, and I know that some cities cover 0 for crossing guards, and other cities cover like 1 crossing guard. So the fact that we're doing 11 at a cost of, $250,000 a year was a lot, and now it's up to $300,000. I feel like it's been creeping up and up, and I do feel like as a council, I would like to discuss a cap. just to at least give the school district a heads up as they start budgeting, that if they do want to grow the program, that they should start to think about potentially putting the funding together. I'm uncomfortable with a blank check and getting, invoiced after the fact, and it's gone up by a certain percentage that we hadn't necessarily approved ahead of time. And, as being good stewards of our community's money, I think that we should, I liked the Councilmember Rack's idea about, maybe discussing the contract at the 2+2 and how often that goes out to bid. But I do think that as a council, we should discuss our comfort level with the funding and if we're comfortable with it continuing to increase and us just getting the bill after the fact, or if we want to be a little more proactive in deciding, what we're comfortable with. So that is my question for my colleagues tonight.
Thank you, Sarah. Councilmember Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Sarah that we ought to think about a cap. Although I think I like what we're doing here. I fully support it. And I think we ought to fund it as long as we can. I suppose there will come a point where the council's going to have a discussion about it, but I'm really glad that we as a city are in a position to do what we do now. We're a pretty well-run town. That may not always be the case in the future, so I think it might make some sense for the council to set a point at which there's going to be a discussion as to whether or not there's going to be further funding. But for now, I totally support this.
Thank you, Ron. Councilmember Rack.
Thank you, Mayor Dugan. I just want to say I appreciate the comments by the Vice Mayor and appreciate Councilmember Collins' comments. And so I do think we should potentially have a discussion on a cap, because, or at least understanding from the process standpoint, because I do feel like it doesn't work well if we're just getting a bill, basically, without any say or any input on it. So it doesn't mean that we need to do something now, per Ron's point, that we have the funding, but I don't think we should be taken for granted either. The fact that there's nobody here from the school district on an item that we're going to fund $300,000 for them is disappointing. So, I think we need to be more engaged in this, and they need to know that we want to have discussions about this and how this process is going to work moving forward.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. I'll just say that, I greatly value our crossing guard program. I think it's, keeping children safe on their way to school has been a high priority of this council. We have generally fully funded our Safe Routes to School program, and I'm proud that we've done that. And I, of course, view our crossing guards as part of our Safe Routes to School program. So I'm very glad when the school district asked for our help. We stepped up. I understand before 2015, the school district paid for 100%. Then we struck a partnership with them between 2015 and 2020 at the 50-50. And then for the pandemic, they asked for special help. And, I can only imagine that was intended as a temporary basis, because the structure is not one that would be permanent, in that one agency responsible for contracting and another agency picking up the tab is just not a long-term sustainable structure. So I do support us doing something there to make this a sustainable program that can continue. First, I'll say I fully support fully funding it this year. But then I would like to delegate to our 2x2 committee to discuss this matter further. It should be done in dialogue and understanding of the school district's needs here as well. And I'd be comfortable delegating that to the 2x2 and staff, and it can come back on consent in future years. Again, I support fully funding it tonight. I heard a cap that's workable, but perhaps we just step back down over time to that 50-50 is another potential idea. 75% next year and 50% after that, and put it back on where it had been is just another thought. But I would suggest we do that in discussion with the school district through the 2x2 committee. So that's my thought. Councilmember Venkatesh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also agree it's a great program, and it puts our kids at safety, and I enjoy the program. But I also am disappointed that it's a $300,000 check, and we don't have any feedback from anyone. I also agree with Vice Mayor McDowell that we need to think of a cap. I also think that we need some acknowledgement, like in a newspaper or a newsletter. My kids attend the schools, and I've never seen anything acknowledging that the city does pay for that. So it would be nice to be acknowledged.
Thank you, Pranita. Well, what I think is before us this evening is just fully funding it for this year. Do we have consensus on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would move to adopt Resolution 2024-121. A resolution of the City Council of the City of San Carlos to fully fund the San Carlos School District Crossing Guard Program for a total of $296,917.65 for fiscal year 2024 to 2025.
I'll second.
Terrific. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rack?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McDowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Councilmember Venkatesh?
Yes.
And Mayor Dugan?
Yes. Very good. I'm proud of us as a community for funding our crossing guard program for $300,000, fully supporting 11 crossing guards for the next year. So thank you, everyone. That brings us to item 10, agenda setting. Does anyone have anything they'd like us to consider for a future agenda? Seeing none, that brings us to adjournment. Thank you, everyone.